All right, so let's say we want to analyze some data here. We want to look at the data file, see what kind of variables we have. So the first thing we'll do is we'll download our insurance CSV file, which I have just done. And now we'll open it up in Power BI. So for Power BI, I'll just say get data. And because the downloaded file is a CSV file, which is a variation of a text file, we'll select the text/CSV file format and click Connect. And there it is in my download folder with my name attached to it. Good. So I'll click Open. And Power BI will bring that into Power Query for me to work with. All right, and you can see here it gives me a heads up as to the structure of the file. It's using commas as the delimiter. If for some reason it guesses wrong and you have a specialized file, you can actually change that. But we're okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Transform Data. It's not a bad idea to make that your default. If you know the data is clean and doesn't need any work, as a matter of fact, this data set is like that, you can go straight to load and it goes directly into Power BI. So the query editor comes up, I can move it around, and as we've seen before, I've got the data type set up here. This is a whole number right now, but I could say, well, let's go ahead and make it a fixed decimal. And just replace current. So we can make our adjustments to the data types here. We can also get a feel for how they're working. Before I do that, I want to change this back to a decimal. We've got our biological sex, male, female, body mass index, number of children, whether or not they are a smoker, the region, with the U.S. broken into 4 regions here, and the dollar amount of medical charges that we, the insurance company, have had to pay. All right, so I can say close and apply. And that loads the data into Power BI for me. Now, for some reason, if I forgot or need to go back and just double check, I can actually go to the data view right here in Power BI. And that'll give me a slightly different version of my data fields. So you can see here we have age again. And when I click on age, the table and column tools allow me to go ahead and make changes to the data type, even right here in the Power BI application itself. So I could change age to a decimal number. I get a little warning here. And then I want to display it as a decimal number. And I could specify how many decimal places I would like as well. Now, of course, before I do anything, I will put this back to a whole number and set the format back to general. All right. And we can review the other data fields as well to see that we have text field. This is numeric, but it is a decimal number. And for those of you who have a programming background, of course, this whole number would be considered an integer, whereas this decimal number would be considered a floating point number. Children, also an integer. And then for biological sex and smoker, we basically have a 2-value text field. So if we wanted, we could use the column builder to create a Boolean field or a numeric dummy field out of those 2 fields. Region is a text field with 4 different values, so it's categorical but not binomial. And then we have the insurance charges, which are a floating point decimal number. So what we want to do now is think about some of our documentation from CRISP-DM. So if we go to the CRISP-DM and see what are we doing as we start to understand our data, well, we want to know, first of all, the initial data collection report. Where did we get the data? Where did it come from, etc. That's pretty straightforward here. So we'll focus on the data description report. What do we have? What are the data fields? And our data exploration report. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on that. And for our purposes, we can, instead of creating a completely separate report for each one, just make them sections of a single document. So I can open up a blank Word file, and we'll start off with data description. So I'll start type in my data description there, and then I'll highlight that line and say, let's make this heading 1. Okay. All right. So now we've got Mitch Winger insurance .csv has the following fields. And we can even make a bullet point here, so we'll list the fields in order. So I've got age, sex, BMI, and you can see Word is helping me by capitalizing. I won't worry too much about that right now. Children, smoker, region, and charges. Now, let's go back up to age, and we could just say age is the age of the insured in years. Biological sex. And then in this case, we only have 2 allowable values, so we can go ahead and put those in here as well. Male and female, all lowercase. Body mass index. Number of children. Is a smoker. And here we have yes and no. Region. Region of the USA. We could type in all 4 values here as well, but as you get to categories with more and more values, that may not be necessary. And then charges, we will call charges applied to the insured's account. And at this point, we could also add additional sub-bullets, but it may make more sense at this point to start making a table. So let's go ahead and make a table. I'm going to insert a table, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll set up an extra row for headers. And let's give ourselves plenty of opportunities to put in lots of values. So at this point, we'll say variable, data type, and then we want to know the variable type and we'll add more as we continue. So we have age, sex, BMI, children, smoker, region, and charges. And at this point, I could apply some formatting to the table and set it up with some shading. The only thing I'm going to do for now is let's go ahead and bold all of the text on that top row. That's our header row. We'll have an opportunity to add more things as we go along. All right, so age, we remember, is an integer. Sex is text, but it's also Boolean. It's a two-value text, so you could put that in parentheses. We'll just leave it simple for now. Body mass index is a floating point decimal, so you could put either one, float. Number of children is an integer. Smoker is text. Region is text. Charges is a floating point decimal. Now, why do we have another type? Well, we want to think about the type of analysis we want to do here. And we're moving our way towards developing predictive analyses. So in this case, for the purposes of our machine learning that we're working toward, what variable type is this? And basically we have target, and in this case, we would like to be able to estimate the charges that we may have to pay or act on for new insurance customers based on their demographic information that we collect here. All right, so that makes all the rest of these features. And I'll just copy that down. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 features and one target variable. All right, so we will keep that table and come back to it, but now we are ready to start putting some more work into our analysis, and we'll get on with that.